these guys were already there today cleaning the carpet.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like kidding them. I said, you know, well, what if it doesn't pass? They said, well, you got clean carpet. So I said, okay.
Yeah.
I actually didn't call out and schedule him for November.
Washtenaw County, I'm in the middle of a huge illicit discharge issue. Oh my God.
Oh, really? Yikes.
Attorney generals are involved.
Fun for them.
The MS4 program.
Oh, yeah, I gotta love it.
Gotta love
My office does
that.
it all the time.
I think you're probably ready to go.
Are they good? Looks like he's trying to.
I would do it if I could stand up and do it.
All right, ready?
17.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is October 19th at 7:01 p.m., the regular Village Council meeting for the Village of Oxford. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Timing is everything.
Here.
Ori Howard,
Yes.
Allison Kemp. Here. Ashley Ross. Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you. Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Do we have the most recent, a copy of the most recent?
Should say 1019 on the bottom.
It was, yes.
Does everyone have one?
I'll make a motion to approve the final agenda for October 19th, 2022.
Support.
Okay, motion made by Helmuth, seconded by Bourgeot. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I don't see a spot on here to go into.
Closed session?
14.
Mine just.
Item 14.
14, got it, okay, thank you. I just wasn't reading, thank you.
Nope, you're good. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nay? Motion carries. Okay, number 5 on our agenda, we have a presentation, Terry Stiles from OCTV. Welcome, Terry.
Hi, thank you. I'll keep it short. I'll try anyhow. So I'm Terry Stiles. I'm the manager of Oxford Community Television, for those of you who don't know me. I've been at the station in one form or another for 24 years as a volunteer, a board member, an employee, and now the station manager. And so it occurred to me that in the 24 years that I've been at the station, and I've also sat on this board, management really did not communicate our budget and what we are doing with your money on a regular basis. So I am this year starting to do that. We put our budget together actually today. I did a preliminary one this summer, which prompted me to do this. So I will do that from now on every year when I'm putting our budget together. I want to give you a little bit of a history of why we have a television station in this community. In the 80s, 86, when Ted Turner created cable stations, in their wisdom, the FCC decided that local communities may lose that local import, right? What's important to the local communities. So they mandated that the cable companies charge their customers franchise fees and PEG fees. Franchise fees to maintain easements, and PEG fees, which are public, educational, and government, to help get the word out to the community of what's going on in your community. For those communities that chose to have television stations, which we did, we have an interlocal agreement, and I think it was signed somewhere, Bob, you might be able to correct me, somewhere around 85, 87, somewhere around
Yes.
that time. So for years, the franchise fees and the PEG fees have been passed on to OCTV. You well know that your community passes on half of the franchise, so too does Addison and Leonard. So that's why we're here. And so we really do fulfill what's mandated. And I'm going to read this because I don't want to forget anything. What is mandated of us by you in the communities is to keep track of what's going on in the community. We're basically the front porch of a community. We've kind of lost that communication with each other. We are here for local news, information, which is critical, especially during pandemics, elections, and other high-stakes community moments, and we've had those. We're here to fulfill the community obligations. We're a reliable source of information. We deliver hyper-local programming. We're recorders of the community's living history. We bring relevant civic news and information to the community, such as supervisory updates or updates that's going on in the community. We did as much as we could to help you guys out when 24 was being destroyed and put back together. We provide transparency of government meetings for your constituents. We record the history of our core community events such as parades, open houses, cemetery tours, ribbon cuttings, holiday spectaculars, construction rerouting, and more. And we cover our businesses if there's new businesses within the community, and not just this community, but also Addison Township and Leonard. We feature more than 50 events per month on a regular basis. We've also featured over 150. We hit our 200 My Life program. We've featured 150 veterans, and that program, the series of that program, you're probably bored with that, right? Is being considered in the Library of Congress. If anybody knows of any veterans that we haven't done a My Life on, please let us know. And they don't necessarily have to be just in this community. They can even be in the outskirts. We bleed over. Our programming bleeds over into Hadley and Metamora and Brandon Township, although we don't get funding from them. They're able to see what we're doing. So we also bring viewers into this community from those communities. We assist businesses and churches and nonprofits in advertising any events that they need help with. We also assist nonprofits, period. We assist in emergent situations, information. We bring information to shut-ins, health information, physical information. One of our highest viewed programs is a yoga program that we've been running for the last 10 years. And people are still watching it. I'm trying to keep it fast. Let's see. Our biggest service, I feel, is featuring the people in this community as well as the businesses. We escort youths through our station. Just last spring, we toured 75 children in one day. But we also assist scouts in getting their communication badges. They've come through, they've created commercials. It's really cute to see them do that. We provide education to children. We have a children's program, which we got a grant for so that we could have the equipment and the volunteer to do it. We have a student population of over 26,000 students in this community, and somewhere in their academic life, we've provided video for parents, grandparents, out-of-state relatives, and even colleges that students are applying to. And we even assisted a woman getting her PhD. She argued her PhD on a video and sent it to Florida, and she got her PhD with that. We're not a relic of the past, which I hear often. People keep saying, people aren't watching cable anymore. We have 7 different platforms that we're able to air our programming on. So all of our sports, all of our academic programming goes out all the way across the United States. You can catch us anywhere. especially on YouTube and Facebook, which is the most popular. We have 8,000 people a month watching us on Facebook and YouTube, and that's only 2 platforms. So we could potentially reach 50,000 people. If anybody needs to get in touch or wants to get a message out there, please call me. Almost done. We also do live streaming so that people can watch you guys in real time. Let's see. And most important of all, we do have what looks like a large amount of money that we're sitting on. It's a Oakland County Reserve account. However, that is actually like a river. It goes up and down. It depends on our budget, our monthly budget. And starting this year, I'm including that into our budget so people can see that. It's never been in our budget. I'm including it as a general fund, finally. So everybody knows exactly how much money we have. I've heard over and over again, why do we need to give franchise fees? They're sitting on $200,000. Well, that's up and down. Our budget's a pretty good sized budget. We do have we're employing 11 people from this community, not all full-time, they're part-time and full-time, but we're working hard for this community. So I just wanted you guys to know, I'm not going to go away. You'll see me again next year. Any questions?
You did a great job today.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Terry.
I'm going to email you about some veterans.
Oh, please do. And grants. I'm interested in grants.
Thank you, yes, let's chat.
Sounds like a fair trade.
It does.
Thank you. Okay, next up on the agenda is call to the public. So this is a time for anyone who wishes to address council. You may do so. If you step up to the podium, you can voluntarily state your name and address if you'd like.
People wearing yellow are not allowed to do this tonight. It's just the color of the month.
To assist you.
Please don't take it out.
You saw that, she challenged me. I am Rod Charles, live on Beamer Court in Oxford. A couple quick things here. One is, I'm the township representative for SEMCOG. We had an interesting meeting last time. I think Kelsey, I gave you a copy. Ashley has a copy too. If anyone would like one, contact them or send me a note, but it was very interesting what they said there. That's one reason I came here tonight. A couple of key things I noticed is EVs are coming whether we like it or not. I know Chad mentioned it too, right? At Jonah Motors, it's been discussed a little bit, would you say? In fact, one of those things that I thought was interesting in the projection, which went out to 2050, is they're saying 100% implementation by 2050, which seems like a long ways away, but right now we're about 5 or 6% EVs, something to think about. Another thing that was interesting too, I mean, you talk about demographics. In fact, Ashley and I discussed the past aging of the population. The number of people below 50, 60 as a percentage of the population is decreasing as a percentage. Something to think about when we plan and make our capital improvements, et cetera. I thought that was one of the most interesting things when you talk about making decisions on what's being built and what's being done. The population itself, they're saying, is going to remain stable, but the rest of the United States will be increasing somewhat. So our percentage of the population decreases. So just a little bit, if you get a chance, if you want it, then get a copy from them, or I'll shoot a copy to somebody else. But it was a fascinating meeting I went to. I'm very happy I went there. Another thing I'll mention too, by the way, in my role on the DDA board, we just brought on board 2 new people, if you had a chance to meet them. Very impressive. Grace Carey and Bryce Clark. They both live in the village. Bryce and his wife are restoring an older home right on Lapeer Road. Grace also lives right on M24 as well. They are both, I'm really excited about them. They've got some great ideas, and they're already working on the couple things we have going with the DDA, which I'm sure Kelly can fill us on later on. Last thing, for our friends in the Village Council, December 10th, if you would write that date down. I don't know if Kelsey told you that, but the DDA has a little event we're putting on locally here in the village. So December 10th, we're going to do a little Christmas kind of a thing. If you could, and we're inviting you, that's what I'm trying to say.
I already got a babysitter. So.
All right, see? So everyone's going to meet at Kelsey's house, drop off their kids, except for those of us who are older. Like I said, with the SEMCOG meeting, you don't have to worry about kids anymore. So anyhow, December 10th, if you write that down. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rod. Anyone else like to address council? Yes, please.
We accept it.
I'm still here, Mo.
How you doing, Mr. Moser?
You haven't got me out there on Burdick yet, or Seymour Lake. Dennis Moser, 48 East Burdick. Okay, this is about as loud as I get, even when the grandkids are acting up. I'd like to talk about development on East Burdick Street, which seems to be stopped. I'd like to know what commitment the village has from the developer. Okay. Now, that being said, we can do this at another time because this can get kind of drawn out. They tore down 44 East Burdick in 2017. So for the last 5 years, and I've let the dog out in the morning, let the dog out at night, that's what I get to stare at. The house sat there for months on end, partially demolished. They demolished it and then the rats started. Well, they got rid of it pretty quick. I will say the developer took care of that. Since then, it's been nothing but noise, dust, and dirt, and trash. I've had enough. The project needs to stop. He needs to clean the site up, or he needs to develop it. Okay, this has gone on far enough. I've had a gutful. My wife, who is exceptionally patient after 27 years in daycare, is even getting a little upset. I mean, when she looks out the window and gets mad, it's time. I'm not going anywhere. Okay, my kids are probably going to take the house when we move out. Making arrangements, have them turned into a rental. Now, that being said, when this project started, there was a privacy fence between residential and commercial areas. I would suggest that you reinstall it between a residential and commercial area. That might be one way of starting to resolve the problem. Okay, but I thought there was an agreement with the developer to have the building, one building weather tight, parking lot complete, and landscaping in by the end of July. The first building's not even complete. And it's been going on since 2019. Pandemic has nothing to do with it. He was behind then, he's behind now. And that's his problem, not mine. He's making it my problem, the other people on Burke's problem, people on Stanton's problem. And that's not right. So he needs to do something about it. Or the village does. Now the village's fingerprints are all over this because of the deal they made with them. Okay, so I've got to come to you to ask that something get done. If you want to discuss it more, I'm available.
Thank you for your comments. I will follow up on that and I will get back to you.
Okay, I can meet with you anytime, anywhere. We can sit down and have a cup of coffee and go through it.
That's great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Any other public comment? Okay, there'll be another opportunity later on in the agenda. Okay, we'll move on to item number 7, the consent agenda. Is there a motion to receive and file A1 and 2?
Make a motion to approve. I can do it again. The consent agenda items 7A, 1 and 2. As presented.
Support.
Okay, motion made by Helmut, supported by Kemp. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nay? Motion carries. How about 7B?
If there's no questions, I'll make a motion to approve item 7B, including the bills in the amount of $189,875.38.
Okay, motion made by Helmut, supported by Bourgeot. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Bourgeot,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Helmut,
Yes.
Kemp, yes, Cook,
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Number 8, unfinished old business. First up is the rental property inspection and safety. So council's debated this for quite some time. At meetings this year, we did pass a rental registration ordinance, and we did not pass a rental inspection ordinance. That meeting, there was four council members attending, and the majority of us, considering what our absent council members, what we believed to be her beliefs, it wasn't gonna go anywhere. So, but, our council member Helmut, you did bring up at the last meeting that you wanted to speak to this, and so I did put it back on the agenda so that your voice could be heard tonight.
I think we were quite hasty in changing our minds on this. I think there's a lot of problems with rentals. Otherwise, everybody would want to live next to one. Who doesn't get excited when they find out the house next door is going to be a rental? We all do. No one does. You want owner occupied. But rental is needed. People need a place to rent. But they deserve to have a place to rent that's safe. I'm not saying it has to be the Taj Mahal. But I'm saying when there's a fire in the basement, the person on the second floor should have a safe fire exit. I'm saying there should be smoke detectors. You should be able to get up in the morning, step on the floor, and the carpet not be soaked in whatever it's soaked in. We don't have to go and do huge inspections, but we know where they are. We can easily go and see, are your smoke detectors working? Do they have a safe fire exit? Do they have an electrical panel that doesn't have pennies in it? These are easy inspections. And I think if we have a workshop, we come up with a short list. We talked about having a workshop anyway. We just come up with a short list of inspection items, so we can go around and check these things. It doesn't have to be, oh, and the house has to be painted, it should be paint. We don't need that kind of inspection. But we need to know that someone on the second floor is gonna get out.
Kim?
Okay, most of you have heard my views till I blew in the face about this. But Joe, where is this information from? Because I asked a couple of times I wanted to put on the agenda a couple of times talking about renters' resources and how we can distribute those. Where is this from?
It's from it's the link on our website that talks
Okay.
about renter resources, and it goes to the Michigan Attorney General's office, and that's where the report is. It's like a 40-page report, and this is just about 6 pages specifically on this topic.
So what stuck out to me from this literature that we're distributing is the quote is, most municipalities have a housing code protecting the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. Later on, municipalities have enacted house codes establishing minimum standards. Contact your local city hall for information. Later on it goes, call your local inspector's office. When we call our inspector's office, what resources would we give the renter?
Well, the village adopted the International Property Maintenance Code several years ago, and in that code, I mean, there are things as trivial to Mo's point, flaking paint. And I remember when our code officer sent letters out a couple springs ago about, hey, there's a dozen or 20 or so houses he sent out, saying that due to the International Property Maintenance Code, they weren't in compliance and that they should take care of the loose paint on their homes. Doesn't give him the right to just do pop inspections. And the International Property Maintenance Code is not just renter related, it's all properties, right? So whether it's rental or not, doesn't matter.
So I don't, with Mo, I'm not looking to chase cosmetic issues. I'm looking for life and safety. We had the issue in the apartments where one apartment, there was a fire started, they didn't have smoke detectors. The only reason the other people got caught by sheer luck that they smelled the smoke. It's not, it was brought up, well, smoke detectors are cheap. If you want one, get one. It's not just that. It's not just your individual choice when you're living in what's essentially a business and the people below you don't have a smoke detector and there's a fire started there. As a renter upstairs, am I supposed to inspect police my downstairs neighbors? Every other business you go into in town, the fire department checks every year. I really don't understand how this is all that different. At the very least, I'd like to see a workshop. I would like to invite our future new chief to come have his views heard on it, get his perspective, because I do want to base this off of evidence. I don't want to base it off emotions. But Waterford has rental inspection, Lapeer has rental inspection. This isn't something new and overreaching, in my opinion. This is fairly commonplace, even by what we're distributing on our website right now. So I would like to talk about that. If not that, at least I would like to see us talk about resources we can share. And Bob, I asked you this, and I apologize because I asked you this after the work hours, after I got out of work, so I don't expect you to, have seen it. But
No, I haven't.
so if a fighter,
I wait all day for your text
I
message.
bet you do, Bob. I'm sorry. We always have an unfortunate valley the day of it. With all,
Well, you were asking a good question, right? I mean, about renters' rights on forcing repairs and the process and how long it might take and what kind of a process that is. Your original question was a little more vague, and I had to kind of wonder if you were looking at, rent issues versus repair issues, so you narrowed that down to repair. But some of the materials that Joe has assembled that I think he can talk about, we've found some guidance documents that tells folks exactly how to go about pursuing repair issues when you're a tenant trying to get something done with respect to a landlord issue. So Joe can talk about those, but there are processes available in the court system that allow for that.
and I understand that, and I think that's important, but for someone who is facing a situation where we all know, we've all been on the community forums and we see a million posts, does anyone find a rental, can anyone find a rental? It's not easy to move, especially when you need first and last month's rent, a security deposit, rent has gone through the roof and they're hard to come by, all while your landlord already has that security deposit. So that's a lot of extra cash to move if there's a health and safety issue. But how long would it take the courts to force a repair if it's something critical?
You withhold it from rent, right? I mean, and then the
But in the
landlord has to
meantime,
file an
you're-
action.
Yeah,
What
I mean,
happens in the
we've
meantime?
what was
How long are
it?
you held in that limbo?
It seemed like the outside was 58 days.
There was a time frame in here, talked about court, and it gave a number of days. The eviction process takes, from start to finish, 21 days or as many as 57 days to evict a tenant, and it talks about tenants lawfully withhold the rent at the landlord's, if the landlord starts the eviction process, how much rent, and it does talk about the repair and deduct method that works for small repairs that you can the biggest thing I think that the tenants have to be aware of, if they withhold rent, they have to be sure the money's set aside somewhere to say, I'm withholding it based on these repairs that either I'm gonna hire done or I can do myself.
So you haven't reviewed this document yet?
I've read through part of it, but I guess what happens if, are you just stuck in limbo if you can't pay for the repair yourself, even if you're gonna pay for the repair yourself and hold that rent in escrow? And what if you don't have authority to?
So
you just have
what normally happens is if let's say you think there's something emergency wrong with your rental space, so you stop paying rent. Landlord starts an eviction process and you counter with, I'm not paying my rent because you're not living up to the obligation of giving me a safe and reasonable place to live, which the law requires. Then the court would entertain that in the summary proceeding of a landlord-tenant action in the district court.
So how many days we talking? Because I'm living with a penny in my electric box, and I can't I'm putting my rent money away, and this guy's evicting me, and that penny's still in my electrical box. I don't know how many days.
It's gonna take several months, Mo, to get through the court system.
That's garbage.
And I think it is, but there are emergency motions that can be brought, but then you're gonna say, well, if do these people, I mean, can they afford legal representation to affirmatively pursue these issues? You don't have to have that, but are they going to pursue these issues? And, you know, some of the other issues are, you know, do they want to tick off the landlord? Some of them don't want to be in that position. So I understand the dynamics, but the system doesn't move fast with respect to being evicted, and it doesn't move very fast with respect to withholding money for emergency issues. Could you bring an emergency motion within the court system and say, look, I can't live there tonight because of this issue? Yes, you can do that. So you can speed up the relief.
Ross?
That's the swing vote last time for this. I am not opposed to having a workshop or a community forum with people at the table. We have our list of rental spaces, we have addresses for folks. What I was missing last time is having renters, property owners, and our chief and or your representatives in the same room to have the discussion, because when I spoke with renters recently, they had no idea this was even a discussion happening at the council level. Property owners, we've heard from them, we've heard from chief, but we've never all sat down and said what is best. And so it's hard for me to make a decision either way as somebody who is not in this situation. So if that's a possibility moving forward, to either invite representatives of each community or partner that we need to talk to, because I don't want to be a swing vote on this, and I see both sides, but I would like to have the folks that are living it and have vested interest in it be able to speak.
Because I did miss the last meeting, what is the problem with having the fire chief or the electrical inspector go to all these rentals and just check the electrical box?
Is it something the fire department can just do
Well,
without the village making it an ordinance?
We would have to make it an ordinance. I would think.
I was just gonna say, you have to have the basis for doing that. And I think where we have, I've worked on this 18 times since 1972, I think.
Well, why haven't you got it right, Bob?
I don't know, but we've been working on, I know she was talking about that interlocal. I think where we get not lost, but I think where we lose is the scope and the nature of the inspection and what prompts it. I think that would be the groundwork for a meeting where I think I know where the fire would stand on this, on what should be the scope, what their scope would be. I see the landlord's position is that, oh, well, once you're in there, you know, you're gonna be looking at other things, and, you know, you're just opening me up for money, which I'm gonna have to do things, and I'm gonna pass that on to my tenants. I understand the arguments. But I think we have to decide as a group in this kind of forum that you're describing is what's our objective, you know, what's the purpose of this, and what would be the scope of it? Because you probably have, 138?
Yeah, I was gonna speak to that.
Go ahead.
So, since we started the registration process, we sent out notices for the people that registered landlords. We have about 135 addresses. Some are duplex, some are 2 or 3 units, and of course then there's the Oxford Square apartments that are, I don't know, 400. Second notice, final notice, I wanted to at least send it out 3 times to give them an opportunity to respond before the penalties for not responding kick in. And in the last round, we picked up several more. So we're over 100 of the 130 or so that have registered now. So that gives us a pretty good database. So twofold, if you wanted to have some type of a meeting to a community forum, we have addresses now with renters where they live. We don't have names with some of them, we have owners mostly, but we could send a notice of that type of a meeting to those addresses. Also, you know, we know now, we aren't gonna know where all of them are. There's pocket houses, backdoor houses, and units around that we're just not aware of yet, of course. I would say that probably the majority of the rental space are well kept and in fine and in good shape. But we could still nonetheless send out, say twice a year or quarterly, resource list. Here's some things, here's the consumer's energy about if you have problems with your electrical service or need help with utility bills. We could send out the information included in that same flyer for the RAP program, for the water, assistance program, and also other information about this for landlord-tenant resources, and to explain to those people, because they're transient to some degree too. So if you send this thing out a couple of times a year, you might get different people receiving that mail every few times you mail it out. And in the short term, maybe then that's a way to reach out to them to push out those resources to those 130, 150 units where the renters are that we know of. And most of them are going to be, I'm fine, I don't need it, I have a nice place. But there is that segment that you want to deal with that says, I have some questions, they can call us, or they can lean on some of these other resources perhaps. Not saying you guys can't continue down the path about the inspections as well, but now that we've gathered that data, or the database, we'll at least have something to push out information to.
So like you take all that paperwork you send to them and stuff it under the fire escape that's not level to try to prep for that.
If it's thick enough, we can
Absolutely. You gotta send it a lot.
fold it.
Let me just say, I don't want to get into a debate now. If we're going to agree to have a workshop, we should do that.
We should do it.
I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of issues even with landlord-tenant law, and so we can't focus on that. We have to focus on what the village can do, like Bob said, what are our
What's your
objectives.
purpose and what's the scope?
And so far, in our last meetings, I'll just bring up that we haven't been able to practically put this together. We've talked to consultants, we've talked to our village manager. How will this work? How are we going to recover the costs? We have no answers. We can't put together a program out there that is doomed to fail and just be a mess and never goes anywhere. So we're gonna have to set up something that's actually gonna work. So maybe that just involves narrowing the scope a ton, or figuring out a different way to do it, like Joe's talking about with all the communication. So that'd be my preference. Let's see what we can do with the addresses we have. Take this next year as a pilot, communicate to our, targeted population that we want to assist, use local government to assist with, and see what can happen, and then revisit it. But that's just me. So I'll let you go ahead, and then maybe we can have a motion if there is one.
And I agree with what you're saying, and I feel like we could put a more of an actionable plan together. We do need to get into, if we do move forward, narrowing something down, because I don't want to push out rentals in this community. That is not, landlords and rentals are absolutely an important part of our community in the, the ecosystem. There's a housing crisis. More people are going to be renting for longer because supply is greater than, the demand is greater than supply. I did want to, my second question for Bob was, if the fire department was to enter a building, and it's happened in our community, that they ended up going through the courts because the building was condemned, how long would that process take? Does the renter live in there that entire time in those conditions while the landlord is collecting rent?
Chief, you have rather broad authority if you see an issue in us. If you want to.
No, he doesn't want to.
What do you got to lose? You're almost done here.
I mean, you have very broad authority under the law for structural integrity, and he can have a building closed tomorrow morning if he was able to establish a severe violation, correct?
Correct. If we actually are in the building and we see something, then we can actually act upon it. The sticky part of it is when a tenant or resident calls and wants something done. We've had that battle over the years back and forth as far as, when we can inspect or not inspect, or we have to be invited in, and the village inspectors have to be invited in at that point and trying to coordinate that entire thing. But if we're on site and we see something that's that bad, then yes, we technically could go ahead and, get a hold of the building official and have it, red tagged and closed down. But then again, what are you doing with the residents that are in the building at the same time?
Yeah, if you're gonna red tag and shut down a building, it's logical that the tenants have to get out.
That's obviously not, no one here is looking to.
No, but that could.
But if it's that critical is my.
Yes, there is broad authority among fire to essentially shut down a building.
Correct.
Based on the nature of the incident. So if we have a workshop, I think we have to, at some point, hear from experts about what is the goals and objectives of a program, and what should the scope of the program be. And then third, when you've decided that, we have to figure out how are we going to put the program together here and administer it.
I'd just like to suggest that we have it as a multiple tier kind of thing, one with renters, one with landlord, you know, the owners, and one with them together. I want people to be able to feel like they can speak freely without, you know,
Intimidation.
that guy owns my property, I better not say what I want to say to the village, I want him to hear. Just the thought that we,
Yeah, we could try, but it'll be difficult in a public meeting session to exclude or include only certain members of the public. It'll be, we could say, hey, this meeting's gonna focus on tenants, this one's gonna focus on landlords.
but they'll come
But
in.
but
We don't have.
you can't really preclude public attendance.
That's fine. Thank you for clarifying.
Does anyone want to make a motion before I move on?
Well, if we're gonna have a workshop, I have other topics I'd like to put on the workshop. We've talked about other things. We could discuss the Waco property, which I think we have to have a discussion on soon. The building back here, the fire, how we're doing with it. What are we doing? We're gonna have a lease here to let people use that building. How long are we gonna do this? What are we doing with the parking lot? What are we doing with the memorial? I think there's a lot of open topics here that just seem to drag by and not get discussed month after month after month. And I think we have to talk about them.
We could schedule a study session to kind of go over all of those. I'd like to see what council's take is on the, moving forward for further discussion of the rental inspection ordinance though. So if we could have a separate motion on that, and then we can schedule a study session with kind of all the
Sure.
outlying
I'll
topics.
make a motion to have a study session or workshop to discuss rentals in the village of Oxford.
Support.
Okay, motion made by Helmut, supported by Kemp. Any discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Helmut,
Yes?
Kemp,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Bourgeot,
Yes.
and Cook.
No. Okay, motion carries. Move on to 8B, museum use agreement.
Okay, on the museum lease agreement, I made the changes that we discussed at the last meeting. The one thing that, you know, we didn't come upon is the dedication document, Mo, that we all thought might exist in the basement. I think a diligent search was made, and we still haven't located that. I tend to agree that I'd like to see that dedication so that we're not running afoul of it, but I would also like to say that this arrangement's been going on for almost 40 years now, and nobody has complained about what we're doing versus the dedication, so I'm not sure. But I would like to see that dedication, so we're gonna continue to look for that. But I did get in all the other stuff about us receiving notices of when that entity meets and their agendas, and we'd like to know what's on their agenda, and we'd like to know when their meetings are. I have this stuff in about complying with best museum practices and the National Park Service guidelines. I did actually find those, so they're out there. They do exist. They do exist, and I read through them, and they do apply. So anyways, we cleared up some things, you know, there really is no driveway, there really is no parking lot. We got rid of some of that. And if you look, paragraph 11 on page 2, when you talk about repairs and maintenance, I mean, basically, if they're gonna do things, they need to let us know in writing expressly what they're going to do 30 days in advance. We have a chance to look at it. We would have an opportunity to comment on whether it complies with, you know, these requirements that we've set forth. So I think we're at a point on this where, you know, this is still a draft, but I think we're at a point where it's time to throw it over the net and let the other side say, well, what do you guys think of something like this? Because we may learn some good things when they review it about, you know, concerns they have.
Ashley?
Thank you for making the changes. I just have two things. Number 14 on page 3. I agree, this is in really good shape, I think, to toss it to them, but for 14, I think this is an assumption, but they're most likely going to want to have somebody from their organization accompany for any
Any entry?
inspection. Yes.
Yeah, we can put that in, or we can let them raise that.
Okay. And then 18 on page 4, insurance of plate glass. They just bought that plate glass. It's brand new. And so I don't know how to rectify the fact that they bought it, they replaced it, they did it on their own. I don't know what happened to the block glass that was there that theoretically we
I think-
owned. So I don't know how we're insuring something that they,
Joe, I think Joe can,
Well, yeah, they just took it out. They knocked it out. It was old. It was. I don't know how historical that was. I don't know if it was from the 60s or 70s. I don't know.
I'm not worried
It
about
would-
that. I'm more concerned, so in here it says we're going to cover, sorry. That's
So
the way I
insurance,
wrote it. The
specific to
insurance.
the insurance of the plate glass.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe it's not an issue anymore.
okay.
They did all the ones on the south side. I don't think they changed anything on the front.
I don't think so.
So
But maybe that, I think it's just something that we should be ready for
Yeah,
discussion
well,
on.
yeah, I
They
think
just
we
bought
let
one.
them raise, let them raise the issue and.
Okay.
Do you want a motion to,
Yeah, I think what we, the motion would be to present this lease agreement in draft form, recognizing it's still in draft form, we're not saying here, take it or leave it, for discussion with the Northeast Oakland Historical Society.
so moved as stated by the village attorney?
Second.
Motion made by Cook, seconded by Ross. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nay? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work on that.
Verbatim.
And thanks, Ashley.
Terry? Verbatim in a minute?
No.
Terry will make the minutes look good.
Make my motion look good.
Okay, number 8C, the DDA bylaws update. Ross, do you want to take the lead on this
I
one?
do if I can find my copy somewhere in my pile of papers.
So this was just emailed to us, right? We don't have paper copies?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. I'm like, I don't have a copy of mine, so it must have been that email.
Okay, well then maybe that's why I can't find it.
I can make copies quickly if you'd like to.
Did everyone get a chance to read them or?
I did, I thought they were very easy amendments.
Thank you.
I mean, if you want, I could make something.
No, please don't.
I mean, they were already approved by the DDA, right?
Yeah, so the DDA approved, the bylaws on Monday. I think these were in our packet not too long ago anyway, so you might have already seen them. Basically, we just really wanted to get into compliance with what we are doing on a regular basis. Make things a little bit more streamlined. We did extend, term limits of officers to 2 years instead of 1. Just because by the time you learn everything in the first year, then, you know, it just went by very fast. I think that was one of the the biggest changes. I don't know where my paperwork is right now. It's somewhere in this pile. I'll find it as soon as I'm done talking. Thank you.
Do you want a copy, Ashley?
They found it on the phone.
You got it?
Yes, thank you.
I had a chance to review them as well. I spent a lot of time on them, and after serving on the board for a year and then getting a chance to look at the bylaws, I made some changes and you
Yes.
accepted them all, and I think it's really well done.
Yep, we accepted all of the changes that you suggested and then clarified any language. So there were a few questions that you had, and so we just put in additional clarifying language to be super concise on what we were expecting. For officers of the board, we formally said that Village of Oxford president or the designee, as well as the Charter Township of Oxford representative, may not serve as either president or vice chair. Sorry, chair or vice chair. For our secretary, this was a change that we can have a secretary from the membership of the DDA and or assign with compensation an employee of the village to be the primary record keeper. And then for the treasurer, we have historically had a treasurer, and so we had a lot of discussion on the DDA that it really didn't make sense for anyone on the DDA to be a treasurer when the executive director and our clerk handles all of that. So
You're it.
popcorn, Terry.
Love you, Terry.
So we removed that as a role since it was really in title only. So those are, I think, the main changes. I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything. And that we also added in there that the board may remove committee members at its discretion. We kept that with Kelsey's advice open, just in case any issues do arise, but it just gives us the power in order to be able to do so. So, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, the DDA would not be able to replace
No.
someone from council or the township.
Not the designees,
Okay, that's what I assumed, but just.
right.
No, they wouldn't be able to replace anyone.
Doing your house, and then actually wanted to get rid of her.
Does that cover everything on
Yes.
those? Okay, I move to approve the DDA bylaws as revised and presented. Support. Okay, motion made by Cook, supported by Helmuth, I think I heard. Any discussion on that? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote.
Ross,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Helmut,
Yes.
Bordeaux, Cook.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, and nice work. I think this was really great. Thanks, Kelly. Okay, next moving on to new business. A, capital improvement plan adoption.
Okay, I printed off a larger format and put it on your desk tonight just to make it easier. I know you had the smaller one in your packet, I believe. So a couple things, we can, the Scripter Park portion of it, I think we want to leave aside for a moment. I'd like to talk about the overall capital improvement plan in full scope. And so if it gets down just to the large spreadsheet where it starts off, the Village of Oxford Capital Improvement Plan 2022-2027, starts with the water fund. The water fund is what, as we discussed, is what's driving a lot of our capital improvement related to water, not only water but streets, because that's where the water mains are. And obviously we've done the Hudson and Denison projects this year. We talked about what we would be doing next year, perhaps Park Street. Back in the spring when we were first looking at this, I had Davison Street on there because it was short and small. It really isn't a street in terrible repair compared to some of the others. So Donna and I talked, well, Park might be the obvious next choice. I've kind of, things of going through this project and hearing about the supply with the ductile iron pipe for the mains and stuff. That's kind of an issue. If you want to do a project next spring, you better have your pipe on order now. As well as the paving that follows the water mains is funded in part by the road fund. We have the major streets and local streets. Many of these old torn up bad streets where the old water mains are the local streets. Our local street fund doesn't have a lot of money. It only brings in about $90,000 a year. The council adopted a $500,000 increase a couple years ago. We've had 1 year now funding. It'll be 2 years this year going out. That's about $57,000 extra that we put towards the roads. So if we were going to focus on the next street, and if it was going to be a local street, we really don't have the money to do $150,000 expenditure on a local street next year, because between the west end of Park Street that we did this year, because it was just so terrible, it was unrelated to the water problem, because there wasn't any water work down there, but that ended up being a little bit less than we initially heard. It was about $70,000 I think we put into that. That was right out of our local water fund, or local street fund. So we don't have $150,000 sitting in our local street fund to do another local street next year. So my thought in the last month or two is, why don't we perhaps pivot next year and just do many more of the service line leads? We did only 20 of them this year. So those are on there. So that would give us a year or two to build up some resources and funding in the local street fund, and then we could knock out a couple more blocks, 2 or 3, 4 blocks of the water main on a local street. Then the street fund could have the money to do its portion of that cost. The water fund is pretty well funded. It doesn't matter what street we go down, the water fund will be able to fund that. West Burdick and other streets that the mains are newer, and you're strictly down to just from the curb stop inward to the building to the meter, there's a lot more streets there that we could do. You could also perhaps pivot to a major street. I don't think I have them broken down on here by that, we just know what they are. Most of these are local streets though, that are on here. Trying to think of any that would be a major.
Pleasant Street.
Yeah, okay.
How much are we putting in our local fund?
The additional
Yeah.
millage was about 57,000.
We're putting 57 in it, and you're
Yes.
talking about leaving that alone,
For a year or two.
which is kind of what we talked about doing with that, was
Yep.
building it up. It would probably take us 2 years
Yep.
to
And then
have the
do
money
a,
to do another
And
one.
do a project.
yep.
Okay.
And so if we didn't
You're
do a stretch on that next year, we could still focus on numerous and even more than we did this year. This year we only did 20 of the service leads from the curb stop in, where, if you look on page 2, what's the water service lines from the curb stop to the meter, I put 40, instead of 20, put like 45 in perhaps for next year. And that would just get us a little jump start on those as well.
But you're not talking about touching that fund at all. We're still letting that
Right,
grow.
yeah,
Okay,
that was,
just
this
making
was,
sure
this
you're
is
not-
strictly, when you have the water service lines that are from the curb stop into the meter, they don't include any road work. Maybe a small little patch out there if they have to tie in, depending on where the water main is. Ashley, do you have a question for me?
I have lots of questions, but, one, how can we increase this fund? Because some of these roads are, I mean, doing 3 or 4 blocks every other year is, we won't have roads by the time we get to them all. 2, what about any funding coming in from the marijuana facilities? What do we have planned with that money?
It could be used for whatever you wish. Roads obviously is a good avenue to spend it. The parking lot out here is a good avenue to spend it. And again, we haven't ever received, we're only now at the end of this fiscal year for the state, September 30, we'll have the first opportunity to receive the excise tax portion of it.
And we only get one, right? Or do we
2.
get-
2, there was a
Did it
second one
op- did
open
it open
in
in time?
September, yes.
Okay.
I thought they had to be open by January 1st.
I don't know the time frame. I know whether September 30th is the end of the fiscal year, and then they've calculated. So I don't know where the cutoff is exactly on them. So again, we won't know until February when they do the calculation.
Bobby, you still awake?
I am. I'm trying to recall, they have to be open by a certain date to be eligible for that tax that year, to come back to the municipality.
Yeah.
But I don't recall the exact date. You might be right, it might be January.
Because I wasn't sure we were getting anything except application fees this year.
Right,
No.
so it's possible. We won't.
We can look, but you might be eligible for that return of funds.
The one was open in the spring.
I mean, in my opinion, overall, we don't spend it till we have it, so, you know, I mean, we can say we want to put it towards roads all we want until we have it.
Right.
I don't think
Right.
there's no point in earmarking it or whatever. I think what we talked about when we did this before was slowly saving up with this to do the roads, and then if the extra income comes or other grants, other ways that we can get money to speed it along, we do that, but I think for now, we gotta stick with what we're at. In my opinion, we keep our rate where it is, we don't change things at this point, we wait to see what money comes in, and then I would strongly suggest that we look at roads, but, I don't think we should do any increases or anything to push that ahead this year, and I think we just wait and see. That's my opinion. I'm all for, this has to be done. We know that some of the houses on here, I had, can't remember who it was that, might have been Mr. Charles talked to me at one point in time about, water pressure and that, and the need for these to be done. So I think it's more than us just catching up. I think we're helping our residents by doing this, and, you know.
The water service leads that we're doing, as the DPW is going around and checking a lot of these services to verify the material coming through the wall, so we understand which ones are galvanized and are in need and qualify for those repairs. we're finding some that are, don't touch it. It might break and start leaking any moment. So they obviously hit the top of our list. We've had a few people call and request us. I had terrible pressure, okay, great. So we put those on the list. We don't want our contractor going to 20 different blocks. We try to at least put them together to some degree. But when we have a couple over here, a couple over there, it's helped. Many people have had the old galvanized line darn near closed off. And as soon as we upgrade it, they're right back to like new. And so next year we could double and then some, even more, the number of service leads that we did this year.
What's our required number for next year?
The only requirement is to have it done in 20 years, and we've been doing this about 2.
Right.
So if you looked at the streets on page 1, there's about 12 street sections laid out there. We've done 2 of those this year, so there's about 10 street sections left. So over the next 18 years, we have to do those to stay in line with the state and lead copper rules. To Ashley's point, the streets, some of them are really bad. I wouldn't say that if we don't do them every year, we will have no roads, because you're very lucky around here with the base in town. Everyone knows gravel capital, right? The gravel base around here is awesome. Roads last here longer than probably anywhere, because you don't have the water in the ground that freezes and thaws as much like some places have. So that doesn't bother me. Putting off a road project here and there to push them a little bit doesn't bother me, because I think the ones that we've done now will last for years. But the water fund can still then, instead of doing 20 service leads like we did this year and last year, we could do 45 or 50 next year. We still have that avenue that needs to be addressed aside from the roads.
And there's no penalty for getting ahead of the game on that.
No.
I mean, it's worthwhile.
Where's the ARPA funds on here?
We used them
that's
up
done.
in the Hudson Dennison project.
That was, okay.
Yeah.
That was like 380 grand, because that was like
I just
600.
asked them the same.
That was 380 grand of about 680 or so of this project.
Okay. And so we were thinking we would have money for park, but now you're saying we don't have money for park.
Yeah, if we were going to do one that would be a good stretch, because it's a long 4-inch line and it's in rough shape.
There's a bunch of service lines that need to be replaced there too.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
I wouldn't do those service lines, of course, right? Because
No.
we can do those at the time. But there are many other streets around.
That don't need water main
Don't
replacement.
need water main, they just
Okay.
need tons of service lead replacement.
Right, that's good.
So for that reason, again, and with the piping, we're still waiting, and we won't have the hydrants for the Hudson Dennison project until February, end of February, we're told, and we'll see when they actually show up. And those were ordered in May.
Yeah, the pipe's a huge deal. I mean,
So,
we have projects at
yeah.
my work that we have the money, we have the contractors, and we don't have the pipe.
Yeah,
So we
right.
probably won't have it for
You can't get the materials.
Yeah.
So rather than trying to get us in a bad pinch and designing this, and we don't have the money in our local street fund to do Park Street, and then finding out we're gonna order the pipe and we won't get the pipe till next October, and now we're fighting the weather, I think it's better to skip the main replacement in 2023. Double or more though, 2.5 times in the money spent from the water fund to fund we could even upgrade that to some degree too. That's a modest amount, 45, when we did 20. That would get us ahead on the curve on that end. And the water fund is funded pretty well, so we can absorb that easily. So that was the first conversation I wanted to have about the capital improvement plan, because that really leads, that's a bigger conversation that we have to have, because you're looking to design, now, the water main and the water fund could pay for the design work for the next road, and we could kind of design the next road, but again, that'd be for the 2024 project. I don't know if you want to design that 2 years out or not. You know you're gonna eventually do it, but I think it'd be better to design it in the fall, the preceding fall of the construction season.
Yeah, I agree.
So if we approve this, you're gonna, parts, you're saying you'll get these parts ordered pretty quickly, you're getting on order and.
Not for the water main, no, I would say we would order those maybe next year sometime, so next July.
These
Oh.
ones, the 45.
Yeah, those, well, because we changed the ordinance, 2 years ago, Don, in preparation of this, we're able to use the plastic piping from the curb stop
We don't have any
in.
part
That's not
issues.
much of an issue. The valve, the new curb stops and everything aren't really an order issue. The brass components aren't as big, it's the ductile iron pipe.
Right.
That's because you need, people, everyone's ordering miles on it. And, I mean, everybody in the state's ordering it, so.
Can you remind me what happened over here that kind of delayed, if that was with the water, the road to go
Where are you
along?
Where are you pointing?
Wrong way.
Move your pen
That
this
way?
way, move
That
your
way?
pen this way.
Over
The
there.
Hudson Dennison?
Yeah. Was that, there was something, what happened with that? I can't remember. Was it parts thing? What? What even?
Well, the only thing that's delayed parts-wise is the hydrants. So it's got 4 hydrants. And, you know, Don wanted the hydrants that match all the other hydrants in town. And is that East Jordan or Mueller? Mueller, okay. And it's a supply issue there. Other than that, no, the project, they started a week later than we had planned. And the first week, they weren't very productive because they found an old gas main under
Oh,
the
that's
road.
what it was. Okay.
And so the first week, they got very little done.
Are these types of things that we would run into with these, or not really expected?
Yeah, it's such a busy area. There's so much infrastructure up there around the downtown and the stores and all that. When you start going down Park Street or something, it's probably, you could always find an old abandoned gas main that they left in the ground when they replaced and upgraded to plastic, like what happened over here. But
I just want to make sure we agree to do double, triple the amount, whatever. We're not likely having a situation like that where we
Yeah.
have.
I don't think so. Our supplier didn't mention, the one doing the service line replacements didn't have any issues with getting his supplies. Don provides them with some of the curb stops and the box and rods for the curb stops. The meters are typically fine. We were just going to the meter. But I will give Don and Rudy kudos for bringing it to our attention to amend our ordinance to allow to not
Substitute
require
material.
to substitute material for the plastic going in, because it's saving us about $700 a home. Based on what the costs were. So the homeowner can pay for the upgrade if they want to go to copper, but when they hear what the costs, then one home on Hubby last year was $700 to upgrade to copper. And they're like, oh, no, I'm good with plastic.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we get releases from the residents before we go into their home?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we send out, kind of like I prepared one in the 2024,
Yep,
or
a
M24
whole
project.
process.
Yeah, so they sign a waiver to say, yep, you have permission to come on my property. And then, once that's done, I think we're back to the old rules. We're not going past this curb stop into that line again, we're
No.
hoping, right?
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
She's in charge.
Yeah. So we're like Vicky did last week, she says, well, what do I do with these permissions? I'm like, I don't, she put them in a file right now, but I don't think there's a need for us to keep them, that the project's done and they've been signed off.
No, you don't need them.
But we have them sign a permission to come on their property.
Yeah. Does our ordinance say that that part from the curb stop into the home is private?
I don't recall. I don't know.
I believe it does. The ordinance does state that, but
Yeah.
due to the lead copper rule,
Yeah. Well, that went out the window with that
Yeah.
rule, but then we can go back inside the window and use our ordinance again, so.
Yeah, so, right, because again, now that we've done our, outside of our bounds, it'd be nice to draw that line hard and fast again and say, it's no longer our baby, right?
Right, yeah.
And if we had one over on Pontiac that was kind of, I guess what it boiled down to is they had some shelving in the basement that was gonna be hard for them to move it out in time to get to the, and they weren't gonna let the people come in and do the work, because they didn't want to spend the time to move the shelving, and I just contacted them and said, well, yours is one that's problematic, we know, we want to do it. If you don't want us to do it, then sign off, this is your baby. And all of a sudden, they're like, well, I think I can get it moved this weekend. And they did. So, because it's in their best interest, because that was one of those lines that it's like, don't push that shelf against it, it might go, it's that corroded and old.
Yeah. My only concern is if we start ramping up and doing a lot of these, just that we have the public awareness of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And if people are concerned, make sure they have appropriate flushing instructions or whatever they need. You know, if they have questions about their water quality afterwards, or, you know, if something breaks.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as we have that all covered from what we've done already,
Yeah, I
then we
think
should be
we do.
fine.
Yeah, I don't, we haven't had any issues with that. Most people are just elated once they do. And our DPW and Sons, our contractor that we used on 24 in the last 2 years here, great contractor, very conscientious, good crew. We give them the contact names and information of those properties, and we're done. And they communicate with them, they coordinate with them, and we hear nothing but great things with them.
Great.
So for, excuse me, for next year, I think if we approve this plan, that'll put us back onto the, let the water fund, or the road fund build up a little bit of money, tackle more
Okay.
of the service leads next year.
Sounds good.
Still going forward, but just taxing the water fund instead. Yeah. So that's the main part about the streets and the water. So if you turn back to the back page is the descriptor, the general fund portions of the capital improvement, which is pretty much descriptor part. And we talked about this, and just last week I got the development plan or that I believe I put in front of you guys. That just came Friday. This kind of talks and it shows the proposed pavilion, the additional sidewalk there. It shows the red line along the beach, which has the existing retaining wall. So that'd be removed and replaced. Don and I both had a little sticker shock when we saw some of the engineer's cost estimates that you see on the back page there. And when we looked at those, I think some of those are overblown. Some of them are things that we don't really need. So I don't think those costs are gonna be where we're at. When we go to put in for our grant, it's due in the middle of January to Oakland County Parks. Because if you see on the roads, engineers' construction cost opinion, I mean, it's out there. $269,000, they have $54,000 in mobilization and contingency, and there's just some things in there that I don't think are gonna be pertinent to our project. It's a larger scope. And, the masonry column bases at the bottom of the poles on the pavilion, we don't believe that's necessary at all either. The tube steel or the wooden posts are just fine the way they are. So some of those things are in there as a budgeting item, but I don't think we're gonna run across those. We're gonna try to keep it lower than that. So if you look back on the large back page 4 of the general capital improvement plan, we see the beach retaining wall, remove and replace 50,000. Pavilion, we have about 80,000. Their numbers in here are higher, but Don and I have talked about this. We think that we're pretty good with that. The bathroom, again, we talked about pushing that off for a year or two and maybe applying for a DNR trust fund grant after we redo our parks plan. And so that would be kept aside. So that puts us at about 132, 135-ish perhaps thousand for the improvements we're hoping to do next year. And that's the improvements that we'd apply for the Oakland County Parks and grant. 100,000 maximum with a minimum of 25% match. You have to go over 40% to get a higher score. It's like a 1 through 5 score. If you're, if you hit the 25% to like 39%, you only get like 1 point. If you go 40% or more, then you get another point of those 5. I was looking at some of the scoring criteria today.
I'm sorry, what was the max amount?
100,000 for the park development. So we could be looking at $130,000 overall project and apply up to 100 grand for the Oakland County Parks grant, and then the balance would be us. We could possibly go 80, 60, so we're in the 40% range, so we get a couple more points on our scoring of the grant score. But we have some needs. Looking in the parks plan that expired in 2022, it was well done. It documents how the need is, the demographics of our area, and the need and the desire of the community for the beach and the parks. So I think that'll help us score well too.
Can I ask, can we do something about the water tower sooner, cleaning it, or does that all have to be done like as one project with the inside and outside?
That's just going out with the water reliability study and that was in place, and some of those costs. We did some repairs on the standpipe. Was it 2 years ago? 2 years ago?
3 years ago.
Yeah, 2019. Overall, I don't know about the interior though, right? So it's mandated to be done every so often, right? So, and I went back and looked at those numbers again. They just seem small to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm suspicious that they aren't today's numbers.
For the interior?
Yeah.
It's expensive.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I just know nobody likes to look at the dirty water tower we have in the village.
Oh, right.
Like on the outside of it.
Oh, so the outside, so okay. Yeah, the only thing we've done on the outside is some work on the antennas on top.
Yeah,
and
painting the outside's a little cheaper. The inside is a
Yeah.
costly item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the township, I don't know if they just power washed it or what they did to the outside of the water towers, but it looks really nice.
Yeah, well, the exterior, yeah, they're showing 150 grand for the exterior and 46, yeah, about 80,000 for the interior and 150 in the exterior. And then, but yeah, they're scheduled to be done in 2026. Now, could we do them sooner? Sure. Just depends on the balance of our water fund.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody else is concerned about how dirty the water tower is, but I hear about it, so just thought I'd bring it up.
I like to say in 35 years, no one's ever complained to me about what the water tower looks like.
I think it's just because the township cleaned theirs, and then it kind of showed how dirty ours is, so.
Well, theirs was bad. I still remember.
Well, theirs was pretty bad before they
Yeah.
got to it.
Yeah.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
I have not heard anything whatsoever on the cleanliness of our water.
Maybe it's just
tower.
me with water stuff.
I feel like you are in a different world than we are, though.
That's true.
It's just with water.
The water is my life. Yeah.
So, it's in the capital improvement plan for 2026. Not saying you couldn't do something in 24 or 25 or something, but the ones that are required for
Right.
the interior and stuff
Internal.
like that, as I'm sure you're acutely aware.
So is the plan up for approval
Yeah,
tonight?
I would like to see the plan approved. That way, when it comes time, the applications for the Oakland County Parks Grant don't go live onto their site till I think it's November 15th, and then you have till January 14th, I believe, or so, to get it turned in.
Okay.
So if we approve the plan, it'll be approved and at least be eligible for it. I'll reach out to some of our neighbors to get some letters of support for the work and stuff like that.
Sounds great. I'll move to approve the Village of Oxford Capital Improvement Plan as presented.
Support.
Motion made by Cook, supported by Helmuth. Any discussion on that motion? Kim?
Maybe off topic. Have we heard any update from the student group?
No,
Okay.
none, not in about 6 weeks.
Because I want to make sure I want to make sure that group's included. Or not in this necessarily, but I mean, I want to
Yep.
make sure we remain in contact.
Yep. They've got a different email now that was gonna go directly to some of the adults that were at the site visiting with Donna and I a couple months back. And I've responded to them, and they have responded once, but the ball is in their court with the last information I sent them to try to figure out a proper layout.
I have a quick question. Descriptive park improvements, does that include any improvements to the trail to Lakeville Road?
No.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Ross?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
Helmut?
Yes.
Bordeaux? Yes. Cook?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next is 9B, the Oxford Open-Handed 501c3 use of back building storeroom. Kind of getting too close to last, so thank you. I appreciate your patience in attending our meeting tonight.
I was wondering if you were before.
So I did print out copies, and I think Carey cut them up and shared them with you guys today. They're on the printer. That was what they shared with me. This is a 3-page flyer that was shared with me a couple months ago, or 6 weeks ago, whatever it was. And then we've had a little back and forth in the meantime. When I first sent it to council, I wasn't sure what the Oxford Library, Friends of the Library's position was, and they were very amenable to, hey, we can move our books out and store them along the edge. DPW cleaned out some of the old stuff around to make room for the library. Their stuff has been moved around back. So I guess, Scott, you want to speak on behalf? I asked Scott here, and obviously he's got others here as well, to be here to answer questions about who they are, what to do. Chief Sowald asked me, well, when will they be in? I'm like, I have no idea. So I guess an idea, why don't you step up at least and just give a brief presentation of what you envision doing out there and scope-wise.
So yeah, thank you. Scott Huller with the Oxford Open-Handed. So we are a nonprofit organization as of May. We provide free kids clothing and sports equipment to area kids and their families in need. We started in January of 2021. We became a 501c3 officially in May of this year. We have, I think, 4/6 of our all-volunteer board. I think it's important to stress that we are all volunteer. There's no one paid in our organization. We are simply here to provide kids and their families that need clothing or sports equipment so that they can participate in activities as any other kid would or any other child would. So not only are we supporting children, but we've actually been supporting adults as well with adult clothing and other household items as well. So we look to, I appreciate the support of Kelly from the DDA in locating this potential property. Appreciate the support of the library, the Friends of the Library, for expeditiously cleaning out the space. We do see this location in the village of Oxford as being just ideal for being able to support the community. I think we've in a short period of time have really become a resource for a lot of folks. My wife Leanne is she was the creator of this, and she's a special ed teacher in Oxford for the last 12 years or so. And she has always seen kids that are in need, children in need at the schools, in the various schools that she's taught at in this district, that this is really just a way of formalizing that and taking it to the next level so that those kids have what they need to participate.
And if I could, when they first came to me, and Leanne, I'm sorry, was it?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
They're operating out of their garage.
Yeah.
They've displaced their own use of the garage for this, and so they were looking for something a little more amenable and a little more presentable to have people come and to browse and to gather and get their needs met, and versus coming out of the garage and stuff. And as great as that is, and it's worked so far, I think they're looking for something better.
You know, and thank you for saying that. We've actually had, in my garage, is really nothing to speak of. I mean, it's, of all garages you would want a clothes closet in, mine is the last one you'd want it in. And Chad's is much nicer. But we've had over 120 different families in the last just over a year and a half come through our garage. And that's over 200 different appointments that they've actually come to the house to. So the need is there. We didn't know if the need was there at first. We thought it was a good idea at first. Excuse me, but the need really is there.
And it's not just, we're reaching out to like other communities.
Yes.
We've had people from Holly and Lapeer and
Like Orion, right?
Rochester, all over.
Well, like you say, it's been a long time since someone called the fire hall ideal. So I keep stretching it.
Oh, it's a big, beautiful yellow building. So that's
Kind of like his yellow shirt. We don't
that's
need
right.
that.
Right. It's mustard. Yeah.
I think it's a great, and I'm thinking about what I have in my house. Yeah. Exactly.
So, and one last thing to say too, we wanted to appear as much store-like as possible, even though everything is free that we do, and that, to stress, everything that we have ever given away has been free. But we want the people, the shoppers, to have a dignified experience. These are folks that, if, you know, they're already having to come to someone's garage, you know, for free clothing or free sporting equipment. We want that to be a dignified experience for them. So we really, you know, that space over there, that 600 square feet, so it's brown and, you know, very, you know, we have some plans for it, that we want to turn it into something that really looks like a store that they can come in and get what they need. Yep.
So do you accept donations? Like, how do you get your supplies?
We do. So we've had hundreds and hundreds of donations that have come in. They come to our house, and they still will come to our house, and then we'll just shuttle everything up here.
You can't throw them over the fence.
No, nothing. Yeah. So, but no, we receive things daily on our front porch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just out to the community right now, do you wanna, can you just kinda give us an idea of what you need, how somebody gets a hold of you to get it, all the information that, you know, since you're streaming as well?
Sure. So we have, we do all of these appointments, everything that we do is by appointment. Again, just to keep things a little more.
So you have deliveries or drop-offs or appointments as well?
Delivery, yeah, exactly. For first-time donators, we don't actually publicize our address, our home, obviously for obvious reasons. We don't want to put our residence out there. But we do when somebody private messages us, or we private message them back with our address. We have a Facebook page. We have an Oxford Open-Handed website that you can link to from the Facebook page. This weekend on Sunday, since we are streaming, we do have an event, a winter exchange. We actually started this last year. So on October 23rd, by appointment only again, we have, I think, over 35 families signed up to get winter wear for their kids. So
Did this start as sports? I'm just curious.
Excuse me?
Lots of questions. Did you start as doing for sports? I see you've got a lot about sports. Was that kind of what you're?
So that's kind of phase 2.
Okay.
Again, just due to space constraints, we've really kept it to the kids' clothing at this point. But as we noted in one of our other board members' garage, we have hundreds of items of sports equipment that will also be a part of this. So, and another one of our board members is also affiliated with the Oxford Township Parks and Rec. So we will be working with them in their sports seasons to help equip youth so that they can participate in youth sports, so that the equipment, the costly equipment, isn't the thing that's keeping them out of participating.
Sorry, I appreciate
No,
answering
no,
all the
thank you.
questions.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity.
With having something more public facing like a store and not being a private residence, how do you plan on handling donations if you are getting drop-offs that it's not just out there?
We've thought a lot about that, and we want to maintain, the appearance of that area, and also we don't want to create any kind of harborage for pests or anything like that, or rodents. So donations would continue to be dropped off at our house, and we would put signage, appropriate signage, on the front to stress that this is not a donation place. But if we did have any donations done here, it would be at specific times when we were open, so nothing to ever be left out front.
I absolutely love this idea, and I love the idea of it being more of a storefront, to give that dignity and
Thank you.
choice. I can't find the email now, because I think it came perhaps today while I was at work. But I have questions about the logistics of that space and making sure that space is usable, because I know we vaguely talked about the longevity of that building and the cost to heat it and how insulated it is or whatnot.
So the larger open garage itself has overhead heaters that are there kept down low, around 50 or so, maybe even a little bit less, just enough to get the ice and stuff off the police cars. The meeting room has a wall-mounted furnace on the wall. So it's a very small space, probably less, about half of this room, maybe less, I would think. Less, yes.
Okay.
The one cost that we will have to bring back on is Pete's gonna make us put the alarm back on. And that's
You and your fire safe.
And that's $49.
Rental, don't worry about it.
About $50 a month.
Yeah, that's about $50 a month.
I don't have a problem.
So, again, the overall building itself is heated. It has to be heated because the water out there cannot be turned off, because when they built the fire station, they never put a shut-off valve in it. They must have figured they're never going to shut them off. So we can't shut off the water. It's directly piped into the main out front here. So we cannot shut off the water and winterize the building, so we have to keep it heated.
Who inspected the fire hall?
Yep.
I was built 2 years before I joined the department.
So anyway, so the building, the overall outside area, open area in the building is heated already to a modest degree, even though it gets pretty pricey. It's a large open space. And Mike gets after his guys whenever he sees them leave the garage door, and I know Don makes calls to Chief whenever he sees the door open too.
Yes, he does.
So we are all diligently trying to make sure we're not heating the wilderness. But the meeting room space has its own. There is a wall mounted through the wall air conditioning unit, like a home unit. Don't know if that even works. We don't know. But there is a small wall mounted furnace in there that, again, it would be ran more than it had in the past, but of the overall amount of heating in there probably won't increase that much.
I just wanted to make sure we didn't promise you something and something's rusted out and it just not long,
I think they know what they're getting.
Yeah, we walked
I
out
walked in there a
there.
while ago.
It was a couple months ago when we walked out there, and it was full then with the books and.
Well, you guys were in there today, right? I mean,
Yeah. So the premise use agreement that I shared with you is basically the same agreement that we had with the AA evening group, with some minor tweaks to it. Took out the schedule, took out the rent. The liability insurance coverage is still in there. And Scott, we talked last week about that this is more of an thing to get in place so we all understand roles and responsibilities. Chief obviously will have contact information for those, if there's questions or whatever, or hey, there's something, the door's open and somebody's in there or whatever in the middle of the night. Those things will be coordinated. So other than that, I walked in there today and it was completely vacated tonight. And so I told myself, well, gosh, I hope we approve it. Otherwise, because they were in there shampooing the carpet.
Right. Well, you get a free carpet clean.
Yeah,
So and Bob's worked with me on this agreement, and
We kept it
I
simple.
haven't shared it with them. I don't think yet.
No, not yet.
So,
Well, I think I told you we made it fairly straightforward.
Yeah, we're low maintenance, so.
yeah, it's a page and a half, so not much to it.
Great.
I'll make a motion to approve the use agreement with Oxford Opening and
Chief, yes.
Motion made by Helmut, seconded by, was that Bourgeois? Bourgeois? Thanks.
yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Cook,
Yes.
Kemp, yes. Howland,
Yes.
Bordeaux,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Great. Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much.
We really appreciate it. This was incredible.
I hope it was worth the wait of watching our meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never thought about moving you guys to the front.
This is unacceptable.
All right.
So just get with me on the insurance and things like that, and we'll get that I's dotted, T's crossed, and get her in the books. And we'll find a key for that door too. I think we
you.
have one.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yep.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, guys.
Take
Good
care.
night.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, 9C, Planning Commission resignation of Kelly Arcos. So Ms. Arcos did submit her letter of resignation. I think her last day was yesterday that she could attend meetings through.
Oh,
And so have we received any applications for planning commissioners? Okay, I don't have any recommendations at this time. I know Ms. Arcos did, she was trying to, I guess, drum up some interest around her neighborhood at least to see if there was someone who might be willing to serve. So I think we need to, I guess, as much as we could do maybe on social media too, just kind of put that out again, that there's any other vacancies we might have as well, just to see if there's any interest.
Yeah, DDA has one more vacancy, I know, and they're working on that.
Okay, great.
With the two recent ones that got them almost full.
Yeah,
or we could just reject the resignation.
yeah. we could-
They're in place and they,
She signs with it.
but so
I like
Planning and
Kelly.
Enabling Act-
Kelly's very nice.
She was very nice.
She's very nice.
The Michigan Planning and Enabling Act, she's on the planning commission until her replacement is seated. So
Okay.
Could
Well,
be years.
could be years.
we have a couple of members of the audience who are good public participants. So.
Became invisible.
Yeah. You would be great, Connie, if you ever want to. You just let me know. All right, I guess I'd move to accept Kelly Arcos' resignation with regret.
Support.
Okay, motion made by Cook, supported by Helmuth. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Thank you to Kelly. Okay, item 10, items removed consent agenda. There are none. 11 is public comments. Second opportunity. Would anyone like to speak during public comment? Yes. Chief or chief.
A couple of chiefs.
He's only got so many months left. Good evening, everybody. I'm all about community support. It's been a community garage for years. I've always loved being able to everybody to utilize that. The only issues that I have with that, and it's already been approved, which I totally on board with you guys. We have the Pollyant Trail, the DDA, the Chamber, the Rotary, the Library, the Police Department. Somebody made mention of how that garage looks. There's holes in it. We just had to do some engine work on our Tahoe because a critter crawled into it. The roof is caving in on the top upstairs. Lights are being left on. Doors are being left open. We're paying the tab. This parking lot, there's a lot of work that needs to be done around here. So if we're gonna have people coming in and utilizing these facilities, well, maybe we can all pitch in and help getting some of these things repaired or fixed or make it look presentable. That's all. And then our police vehicles are in there. It's just a concern of safety as far as how many people are gonna be. Now that we have roughly half a dozen entities that utilize that garage, officers are coming and going out of that garage getting their patrol vehicles, and sometimes it can get a little nervy if, hey, why is that guy upstairs, or who are you? What agency are you with? You know, that kind of thing, so. But I'm sure we'll get it worked out. That's just the only concerns that I have for that, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, you would do that on your money.
Take my part,
I wanted to make it official to the village council that at the township board meeting last week, I did hand her my letter of retirement. At the end of the year, I will be retiring New Year's Eve of this year, being the last day of work. So, and again, going back to the fire hall, that building was built in 1974, and I joined the fire department in February 1976. I actually helped finish or build out the entire on the inside of that building, so at some point in time, my hands were on it. It's been a long, great run, if that's what you want to call it. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time here serving the Oxford community. And again, I mean the community when I do it, that's the same thing I've always said with the DDA. I'm here for the community. I'm not here just for the village. I'm not here just for the township. You know, I live here. I've lived here my entire life, gone to school here, graduated from Oxford. I won't tell you what year because that was so long ago. But, and again, it's been a pleasure working with the village council, working with the village planning commission, working with the DPW, working with the police. You know, I greatly appreciate the support that you all have given me and given to the fire department. The board did go ahead and appoint Matthew Majestic, and he will be taken over as of January 1st as the new fire chief. So I'll make sure that he's well aware of helping with the rental property right there. But I do appreciate everything that everybody's done, and I'll still be around afterwards. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Thanks, Chief.
I feel like clapping,
I
so
know.
I know.
you might have missed the moment.
I'm not clapping.
Thanks a lot. Okay, any other public comment? Okay, we'll move on to committee reports. Borjo, Noda?
Oh, they were going to be doing their parking lot, but, adding out on the back, but due to timing and all that with the final approval, it's just being pushed back to next year, so that they don't start and then get caught halfway through because of weather. So, that's the main thing. The millage, there, it is gonna be on the, ballot, and we just chose to do it as, it's the same millage as it's always been. So it'll be the same percentage, there's no, difference in it, but it's not written as a renewal, it's written as restarting it because of the names. The thing where it makes it go down. Man.
The Headley?
Headley, yeah. And not wanting it to sound like it was the way it would have been written if we wrote it up one way or the other on the ballot, so we just chose to hold this. And it's, no increase or anything, that's very minor millage, so just be prepared, maybe tell people to expect that on the ballot. And that's it.
Can I ask a question about that, the millage? So I received an email saying that if the proposal on the general election does not pass for the transit, that we'll lose all funding, including for NODA. Is that accurate? Basically, like we'll have to turn in the buses 5 days later?
NODA, well,
Or is this separately funded? Because
there's two different things, I think. There's the countywide millage, and then NODA has
Right.
their own millage. Didn't NODA just renew theirs in August?
okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's.
So the one on
yeah,
this, in November is the
too.
countywide
November
transit
is the
They are-
millage.
they
are
countywide
not the
one
same thing.
They're
that
not. Okay.
Regional
We
transit.
think
Got
that
it.
one's, it's just confusing if it doesn't pass what will happen. There is, you know, because all
Nothing
of our-
immediately.
All of the most of the vehicles belong to Smart.
Okay. Thank you.
As far as I can tell.
Gotta buy a trolley before then.
It might be okay. It's just a lot up into the air.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, thanks for that report. Planning Commission and Cable Commission, Helma?
The planning commission approved notice site plan for the property on Gillespie Street with some contingencies, against some amendments to make to their site plan before they can fill their fuel tank. But we approved a lot more portion of it, and so it's landscaping, and there were a couple other little things, but it won't be a problem. I was not at the cable commission meeting last month, will not be at the cable commission meeting this month, for an incredibly same reason that I won't bring up, but I have a medical problem, and so I had to take care of it last month, and I had to do it again this month, so it's a good time. But they have not had anything major on their agendas. They'll be doing employee reviews again in the next month or so, and that's about it.
Great.
Their budget, because it's budget time.
Great, thank you. Ross, DDA?
Do you want to?
I'll tag team it with you.
Okay, thank you.
First of all, did you hear how Pete said he'll still be around? That means on the DDA board. Yeah, I know. It's all right. We've been giving him a hard time.
You might want to talk to Wendy.
I know. We had a great Scarecrow Fest. If you and your families attended, Kelsey, and Ashley, saw you guys there. It's been very, very busy downtown, and the businesses are really doing great things. We have a new business forward consultant in our community. This was rolled out by the county in March. We just got ours about 3 weeks ago. So Isaac Wolf, he's not only here for the district, but Oxford as a whole. So if you know any small businesses in the community, whether they're in the district, whether they have a brick and mortar in the township, or their home-based business, they can actually reach out to Isaac and utilize their services. So I have the flyer, but if you needed more information, you can contact me. We'll also have it on our new website that's launching this next month. And he actually has established business hours here in the district twice a month. We are ready for Witches Night this Saturday. We have a Small Business Saturday coming up in November, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Then we go right into Soup and Sweet Stroll. We're going to be running the trolley and the Christmas parade. So there's a lot of wonderful things coming up. I did want to say, with Open Handed here, I just wanted to thank you guys and just really just hone in on the fact that that's the way this community works, and council and the DDA and everybody works together. We met them at Farmers Market. That's how they got in touch with us. They were looking for space. I took my crazy idea to Joe. He was so receptive. He got in touch with the library. The library came in. We were able to give up some DDA space in the garage and get our stuff out of there so the library could shift some of their things. And just goes to show just how everybody's working together for the betterment of this community. So I just wanted to thank you guys and thank Joe, just because I feel like everybody's really working well together, and it's just really nice to see. So do we have anything else, Ashley?
I do. So lots of stuff happening. So obviously we've received quite a bit of money in grants. So you will see things slowly coming to fruition over the next, year. The murals, I think, starting it. So if you haven't seen them, take a look. Kudos to Kelly and to Molly in Lake Orion. So I know Kelly and I think Molly as well have been asked to participate in different panels, giving presentations, different meetings, just in all of the great work that they're doing. So the DDA has really taken a leading step throughout the entire state of Michigan, and that has a lot to do with the Stronger Together campaign, and to Kelly specifically. New bylaws that you approved tonight. I'm sure there's more coming down with TIF plans and all the fun stuff. So all of that background stuff beyond what the community sees, with the mayor. There's lots happening, and it's moving in a really great direction.
We got a call today. Oakland County was on a call with Visit Detroit, and they chose Oxford and Lake Orion to come to and create content for. So November 10th, they're going to be coming here for the entire day and filming our community to promote specifically to their audience, which is over 1 million followers. So we just got that news this afternoon.
Since we know the date, can we coordinate sharing that information? Because I know the last time we were filming for SEMCOG, people were very hesitant when you see film crews around.
For sure.
Just the more notice, the better, so we know what's happening.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Okay, Pollyanna Trail.
I was unable to attend today's meeting at the last minute due to work, but there is going to be some brush cutting along the trail, just so everyone's aware. They do it more in the fall because it has less effect on some of the, established vegetation and wildlife. So that will be coming along. Unfortunately, it's just a necessary part of the maintenance.
Great, thank you. Hey, manager, staff, and attorney reports. Joe?
I'll start with Don. Let's go to Don. Do you have anything you?
I don't.
You good? Okay, good. Thanks. Rod Charles mentioned with the SEMCOG and electric vehicles and stuff. Bob and I worked out all the details on the agreement with State Electric and got it all signed and sent to them a week or two ago. I think it was I was off for a week with COVID and I'm still lingering with a cough, but I'm negative, Bob. But that was taken care of, I think, a week or two ago. So they're in the process of gathering their stuff to get those things going. MDOT, the permits for the chamber bridge lighting have been submitted that they're going to do in November. And I think Chief Soul put in the MDOT permit today for the chamber Christmas parade. And we do have some code enforcement issues. One of them is going to get to court here. It's been a problematic issue over on East Burdick, I'm sorry. Long drawn out event, but it's good to have Dan, who's been here a long time, working with us on some of those items. But that's about all I have at the moment. Terry?
Yeah, I'm ready for that now.
Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
Great. All right, council comments. We can start at the end. Lauren? No?
I do want to have a workshop or a study session, whatever you want to call it. I've got more topics. You got a lot more topics. It's so much fun. I'll bring pizza. So I think we just need the staff to pick a date and let's set that up.
Yeah. Sounds good. Do you need any help with that, or you'll just set out
I guess I can just send out
an inquiry?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds great. Okay.
Holiday season's right around the corner, so I'm sure everyone will be tight, but maybe we can find something middle of November or something.
Yeah.
I'd like to apologize if there's a council quorum at my house Halloween night. They're just coming for the trick-or-treat stuff. And they're gonna go, we won't talk about anything important.
Thanks for the warning.
You'll be there, your wife will be there.
Ross?
Thank you, Chief Schultz. So we appreciate everything that you are doing, have done, and will continue to do. Other than that, no. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you. I hope you know how much you and Wendy and your daughters have meant to me over the years, and I know I drive you crazy with my random phone calls and texts about things all the time. But yeah, I with Mo, I agree. We seem to do our best work in a workshop format, and a lot of these issues, rentals, social media, those kind of things, I feel like a lot of those things get touched on, but we never, nothing comes to fruition. So I think a workshop is absolutely, I think we need to schedule that. I am concerned about the back building in terms of just the logistics of the structure. I want to make it abundantly clear, I love the idea of the shop. That is not at all what I have a problem. I just want to make sure we're not creating this false hope and the building isn't being maintained. Because that, the parking lot is kind of gravel in spots, and a lot of those, the roof needs to be done, the siding, and I want to be realistic about where that money is coming from and what the price tag is. That's kind of what I'm a little nervous about. is just the sheer logistics of it, because I mean, even looking at our road fund, I mean, I want to look at those things, and I want to have an idea of what repairs need to be made on that building at the workshop, because it's just an unfortunate fact of the matter.
It's an old building.
It's an old building, and it's been well used, and I just want to make sure the longevity's there.
Thanks. I have no comments except to say thank you for your service, Chief. We really appreciate you, and yeah, you're incredible. So sad to see you go, but you're not going far, as you said. So it's great.
Except in the cold months.
Yeah. Take your time. All right. There's a closed session on here. Is that for any particular purpose or just placeholder?
No, it's for purpose of pending litigation.
Okay. So I don't know the basis or.
Should we go into recess to allow everybody to out?
Once
And then
you,
go
once
to
you
close?
go into closed session, then they'll have to leave, yeah.
Yeah, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session at 8:50.
For the purpose
Pursuant
of.
to MCL.
15.268.
And what is I can't
With the
remember
full
the time.
Pending
attorney,
litigation.
the manager.
Pending
Yeah,
litigation.
we got sued on those FOIA, by that
they vote
FOIA
on it?
wacko. It's a wacko
Okay.
lawsuit.
You can vote on
It'll
it.
take me 2
Yeah,
minutes.
Mics are still on. We're not.
Well,
adjourn.
So slow. I'll make a motion to adjourn at 9:10.
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Yay.
Who seconded that?